only way to be deeply loved is by showing up and telling one's truth. When we're hiding the truth about ourselves, about who we are, about how we feel, about what we want, about conflicts, about needs, when we hide that stuff, we prevent those around us from really knowing us. And so they may say they love us, but if we're not telling the truth about who we are, they're loving something they think about us and not actually us. I want to start out with a little story about someone I know who was able to pretty much heal depression. And the way they healed it was by beginning to tell the truth that they had avoided, probably out of fear, basically. It's often scary to tell the truth. But this person, I don't think they were even in any kind of therapy at the time. They just kind of got to the bottom and realized that there were so many things kind of piling up in their life that they needed to start telling the truth about to the people that were involved. And come what may, they needed to be genuine and clean these situations up and make them better. I mean, this person was blessed with kind of a winning smile and affable personality. But she was depressed. And nobody knew really, except that she could walk into a room when she was really sunk, and everybody felt it. And when I talked to her sometime later, I asked her, "What did you do? What?" And she said, "I realized I had to start telling the truth. When I told the truth, I felt better. And it was really scary. But I had to stop pretending to other people that everything was all right all the time. And I had to start saying no to people when I didn't want to do something. I had to start telling the truth about that. They'd ask me to do something for them and I would just do it, or I'd say okay and then I'd put it off, and then they were disappointed, or I didn't call them back. And there was just this pile of stuff. And she reported to me, just as a close confidant, that telling the truth had really dramatically helped chronic depression without drugs, without therapy, probably listening to Tony Robbins' YouTube videos, which can be great, by the way. She was able to stop that chronic pattern and start seeing really big differences in her life. Not without difficulty. I mean, it's hard. It's hard to show up and tell the truth. And it's messy. Oh, yeah, it can be so messy because people get used to seeing us in a certain way. And when we tell the truth of what our actual wants and needs and preferences, and it can be disturbing to people because they've gotten to know us in a certain way. And especially for people pleasers, people who have wrapped a narrative around their being, around their sense of identity, that they're good people and they want to help and they want to be good. And the way to do that is to just try to please everybody. And the way to be safe, maybe even more importantly, at a deeper level, is to not tell the truth, to do things you don't want to do, and just avoid people and situations that aren't going well. That's probably, I hadn't thought about it, but that's probably the origins of this phenomenon of ghosting people. Just kind of, I don't respond to you anymore. The fear that if I respond, it'll make things way worse than they are. So I will just pretend we don't need to communicate anymore. Goodbye. Not even a goodbye, just no response. It's really sad. And it's so easy to do that with technology, where we're not showing up in the same place around people, where we don't have to see them. That's the opposite of showing up and making space to tell one's truth. And totally understandable. During the lockdown, people's circle of people became very small, and much of it was online. And they lost skills. They maybe were getting better at being genuine, and then it got really scary, and people lost face-to-face interaction. And on one hand, I know people are aching for that. They're aching to be connected, and yet it got really scary. And so people have lost the ability. Focusing on how to begin telling the truth could be really helpful here. So the first thing for me has been to learn sort of the art of owning and expressing my own experience, doing my best to realize that this may not have anything to do with the other person. It may, but it may not, or it may largely have to do just with me and not with them. And it probably has absolutely nothing to do with anything they are intentionally doing. And so tell the truth with one's closer circle, with the people we want to be close to. People that, yes, that we see deep potential in, or even a little potential in. The first thing is to find some skills around speaking about one's own experience. So instead of saying, you really pissed me off when you did that, which you can feel it, right? You really pissed me off when you did that. Whoa, that's a big charge of energy. Whereas to go inside and own one's own experience would be to say, I noticed I got upset and agitated, and I felt like you weren't really seeing me, and I don't know whether you were seeing something I can't see, or I wasn't communicating well, but when we had that interaction, I noticed that I wanted to defend myself, and I wanted to stop that experience I was having of being disregarded. Wow, that's a different experience. If somebody comes to me and says, I don't know what's going on, but I know I felt angry, and I want to sort it out with you. And this may largely have to do with me. I hope if you can see there are parts that you played in that you'll be able to look at those, talk about them. But I need to be honest, because this is standing between us. I've been holding this resentment, and I don't want to hold it anymore. I want to express it. I want to express it and have it done. and go on. Generally, people who aren't super easily triggered, easily activated, it maybe is a better word, get drawn into that. Oh, well, what happened? Well, what did I say? What was that like? And then things can start to unfold. Hopefully, and you can invite it, you can say, does that make any sense to you? Like, were you feeling upset with me about something and that's why you cut me off and spoke kind of harshly? And they might say, oh, I don't know. It's kind of a 1-2 dance where you start the dance out by expressing yourself, but then it's really important to not go too fast and instead to notice how's this landing with the other person, and then check in with them to slow this process of telling the truth and making sure that gets received. Sometimes it's hard to know. I mean, it's really new for a lot of people. It's really new to start to unpack feelings about things in a genuine way. That's kind of step one. This is something, at least, to begin to think about. Who am I not telling the truth to? What am I afraid of? What if I go to them vulnerably? Another thing is to just say, I'm really afraid to talk with you about this because I'm afraid it will cause more distance. And I want you to know that's not my intention. I really want to work this through with you and see what happens. See if they respond. See if they can. We've got to start doing this. I really believe this. I believe this so deeply. We have to start really forging relationships so that we're not so alone, so that other people aren't so alone. And if we don't do this, we're contributing to the fractionated nature of the world right now. If we don't do it with those closest to us, how are we going to reach out across differences, across different experiences, across different beliefs, across different faiths, across different political positions? We have to start close because those are the safer relationships, maybe with people that we largely agree with about all kinds of things, but getting that intimate connection because so many people are hurting and frustrated and afraid, and we're not sharing about those things as deeply as could be really helpful, because then we could become each other's real allies in our lives. Telling the truth takes skill. It takes, first of all, really finding the place inside oneself where we're out of blaming the other or blaming oneself, just trying to find that kind of, oh, this thing happened, and these are all the things that went on inside of me, and sharing those vulnerably without attack. And that's big and important work. And I hope you give it a try with 1 or 2 people that you want to be close to, want to be really close to, and that it works for you, that it helps. And if it doesn't, if it's really messy, be gentle with yourself and the other person if you can. and realize that this is difficult stuff. But we need to start working on this collectively, as a group, as a large group, as humanity, as so-called civilized human beings. So the other thing is, when we're actively hiding things with people, they already know. They may not know the content of what we're hiding, and they may not know it in this part of their brain, which is the rational brain, but this is other group of parts of the brain we call the limbic system. And that limbic system, while not verbal, is powerful, and it is where the seat of our emotions is. And that limbic brain is picking up on thousands of little cues we give, whether it's tone of voice or eye dilation, facial expressions, lack of facial expressions, looking away, looking intent. All kinds of stuff tells an emotional truth that is not hidden. And it may not be, like I said, consciously understood, and there may not be words around it in the other person's frontal cortex, but there's a sense there that something's off and that we're not really close. Again, they may not even realize it. It is so pervasive that people just get used to it. And if they're laughing, that's all that matters. If people are smiling and laughing and telling funny stories, that's all that matters. Because that's how low the bar has been reduced. If you want to be deeply loved and be intimate, people know when that's happened. And if you don't know, then it hasn't happened. And that connection is missing, and it's missing for way too many people right now. Everybody needs to be connected to some other people deeply, where they feel like they can really talk through things about themselves, but also talk through things interpersonally. Chew on it, see if it resonates as something you can begin doing more of. And Godspeed.